Hello, and welcome to the Outlier podcast, the podcast for everyone who is interested in building better homes. My name is Evangelia, and I'm hosting this podcast with Anthony, founder of Outlier, who is passionate about creating beautiful and high-performing homes. Together, we sit down once a month to chat with industry experts to help educate Australians about the potential of creating healthy, comfortable, and energy-efficient homes. We hope you join us on this journey. On this episode of the Outlier podcast, we are talking with sustainability enthusiast and owner of Ecosky Windows, Monika Rogers. Ecosky Windows is a relatively new player on the Australian market and is already making a huge impression. Monika is the driving force behind Ecosky, and she sits down with us today to tell us about the things that make their fenestration systems unique and why we should consider glazing as one of the top priorities during the construction or renovation of our homes. If you've ever wondered what kind of difference higher quality windows would make in a home, this is the episode for you. Okay, let's get straight to it, Monika. Can you tell us exactly what it is that you do? Introduce yourself and Ecosky to us and our listeners.
Cool. Thanks, Evangelia. So I am Monika, the founder of Ecosky Windows, and we specialize in supplying really high performance timber frame, aluminum clad, double or triple glazed windows. And you said what led me?
Yeah, I want to hear more about where did your journey start? I know that off air we talked about even as a child and what your dad did and how that may have even been as far back as then as when this all began.
Yeah, that's true. So I grew up in Europe, and probably going back to my childhood, like you, Anthony, said, my dad built our own home and obviously a few other projects. But just by building our own home, he chose to use this high performance timber frame double glazed windows. And I just had the benefits of experience the benefits firsthand, if that makes sense.
I mean, one of the things that I was interested in the words that you used was you used the word healthy homes. Like your dad was building healthy homes. And this is like well before we even knew what double glazing was in Australia, let alone a healthy home.
Yeah. So, and I'm talking about going back to my childhood, my dad was building healthy homes, and he built our own family home. And we obviously just couldn't go on Google and research what this healthy home is. So yeah, he chose obviously the right things, the right ventilation, insulation, and the main, the most probably important thing is the right fenestration. So he picked the timber frame double glazed windows to install into our family home. So I think it's the main free installation, ventilation, and obviously the good quality windows led to have us a super tiny energy bills during winter, and obviously almost no bills in summer. And most people were extremely surprised if we used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment and had a higher bills than in our 3-story family home, which is super super cool.
So was that even new age, I guess, for even at that time for your dad to have that kind of progression? Or was this something that was relatively normal?
The Windows was a new thing because the Windows was definitely a new thing. But even the older house, we actually, when I look back, we all been double glazed,
Mm-hmm.
just with no argon and just a simple glazing. So actually, all of the windows going back, I mean, probably 60, 70 years, we all had like just a simple timber frame, not engineered. So obviously, it's not as good for insulation perspective, and all been double glazed. So it's not a big deal to have a double glazed in that type of climate and going 50, 60 years back even.
Wow. Fast forwarding, you've now decided to go into that side of the industry yourself and look at Windows fenestration. I suppose we know what led you to this, but it's clearly your passion. Is this something that you've known from very early on and now that it's led to you creating your own window company and not just a window company? But I might let you take it away and talk a bit more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. So It actually was another big factor in my life that I really realized that I have to be more focused about sustainability. And that's when my son was born, right? I think when we become a parent, we always think, okay, I want to leave a legacy. I need to lead by example of sustainability, just really focus about the climate change. And when we moved back to Australia about 3 years ago, I saw a massive gap in the market for high performance windows with natural materials. Like like Australians love their timber, everything like timber flooring, natural materials, and it wasn't a product really that had that high performance window with a natural material. So it just was a clear gap in the market.
Gosh, I would dare to say that it would be 80% or something, probably aluminium windows in Australia. Like the thought of timber was something that was probably foreign to us as it was, even though we do have, I agree, a love of timber. Like, it's yeah, I can see why you've felt that way.
Yeah, and I felt bad. Not, I felt the need to show. But basically, it was a gap of education, if that makes sense. It's
Mm.
not you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And growing up with that, I experienced that window for over 30 years, and that doesn't exist here. So I felt really I have to do something about it.
Yeah, Evangelia has spent some time in Europe herself, and I'm sure you can agree or test to what your experiences have been like.
Yeah, it's just interesting. The level of acceptance is it's very similar to what you say. You don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah,
when you are privy to living in a household that has a higher quality glazing, it's very difficult to come back to the Australian standard. And particularly in my house, I have a circa 1950s weatherboard home, and the glazing. Well, put it this way, I cracked one just by shutting the window.
oh,
So yeah, it's worlds apart. The quality of the fenestration and the quality of the internal environment can make a massive
yeah,
difference. So I'm very appreciative of high quality fenestration, to say
hardcore.
the least. But can you tell us, Monika, in your opinion, what makes the glazing at Eco Sky so unique? And if you like, maybe tell us a little bit about the U values that you can achieve, particularly with not just the fenestration, but the framing as well.
Yeah, so I think it's important to think about the whole window system as a package instead of just a glazing. And obviously, we supply high quality double glazing, double or triple glazing filled with argon. But I think what make us really different is our timber frame. Like it's 98 mil thick timber frame cladded with aluminium, which
Wow.
is 98 mil thick
Yeah.
So can I
as a
just,
standard product.
if in terms of 98 mil thick, what is that, Anthony? Technically, is how different is that to the standard? Just to give the listeners an idea of why is that different to what we
Oh
currently.
gosh, well, a single glazed aluminium frame window might be at best, I don't know, around 35 millimeters or
Okay,
something like that.
all right.
And to put in perspective, a standard timber stud in Australia is only 90 millimeters thick.
Mm-hmm.
These window frames are thicker than a standard 90 millimeter timber stud frame.
Yeah. So it's from insulation perspective, it's incredible if that makes sense. The U values we can achieve from a frame perspective, it's I can't even explain. It's incredible what we can achieve, and combined with glazing, like one of the projects we quoting right now, we achieved at 0.69 U value basically.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
impressive.
So give again some context here to what that means if everyone doesn't mind. Single glazed, maybe 6. Um, if I'm like sort of thinking properly. So you're talking decimals here. Um, so this is performing significantly better. Then if we sort of slide down that scale, most double glazed aluminium window systems here might be doing a 4-ish, something around that, or mid 3s. And then even the UPVC double glazed systems that we work with quite regularly as well are at 1.6. So can I get you to just mention the number again? Sorry, Monika.
Yeah, it was a triple glaze window and 0.69.
0.6.
0.6.
Okay. Do you know what that converts to approximately as a U value? Is it
I think
insulation
that,
value? Like, is it 1 something?
mm,
No, that's all right. We can do that. You can sort
but
of divide that
it's
number
not
by 1. That gives
it's not the installation value, the U value.
It's the
Or what?
inverse. So Nuvo is the
Okay.
inverse of our R value here, and it differs around the world. So we've got to be mindful
Okay.
because even though it's called R value in America and R value here,
Yep.
they're actually totally different numbers as well. And then so if we convert that 0.6 by sort of dividing it by 1 is the rule of thumb, it'll kind of give you the inverse, which is the R value. And we can kind of, what we do with that is we compare that against, say, the insulation R value of the wall. So we can do
Right.
a real
Okay.
life comparisons, and it's really significant. So if we have a typical 90 mil timber stud wall with an R2.5 bat in it, and then
Yep.
you've got, single glazing aluminium windows, well, you might only have like an R value of point 0.6 or 7 or sorry, no, the other way worse, like 0.1 or 2. So you've
Yep.
got this R2.5 bat in the wall, but realistically, the window performance is only the equivalent of about R.1 or 2, whereas what you're describing, I think, is closer to an R value of a whole number of 1 or higher,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is significant. That is a massive, massive deal.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's you can feel it actually. You can feel it inside a house that is a high quality glazing installed.
Mm. So, having said that, Monica, and with your experience with Australian households, comparatively speaking to what you're familiar with, what do you personally? What's your opinion on the quality of glazing that you see installed throughout households residentially in Australia?
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
we can
yeah.
Yeah.
No, like historically, it's just I think the vast majority of a housing has, like Anthony said, like aluminum frame with single glaze window, and I'm not even sure how did we even come up with that uh, idea.
Mm,
Uh, Obviously, most people say it's because of the climate. We don't need a good quality windows, so because it's always hot.
mm,
I actually don't understand it how it came up with that idea. Maybe just from a price perspective, or not have knowledge and experience of manufacturing a like European style window. And obviously, it's a lot of mid-range double glazed windows. That's what which is like even Anthony said, like aluminum windows with double glaze with U value of 4 or something like this. And I think that's where we come in, a high performance double triple glazed windows or any glazing specifications you need, we can achieve it.
mm.
So yeah, I believe it's like 3 different areas of the windows in the
Yeah.
current
I
market.
I'm sure it had price had something to do with it initially. And Australia only recently, comparatively to the world, only recently began to insulate homes and actually even put wraps on it. And it started to make them a little bit more airtight up until, I mean, most homes, and you probably have this in your own home, Evangelia, as I do, but we still have vents in our plasterboard that go to
Mhm.
straight to outside air. So that was a great idea. We thought ventilating your homes, you've got fires burning in there. You want to make sure you got lots of ventilation. So once we started introducing insulation and we became a little bit more airtight and we removed those components from our homes as we started to use electrical heating and cooling devices, we realized that all of a sudden that aluminium single glazed window is not really a great component to include in that overall system because the surface temperature is always going to be cold. If there's a couple of occupants in a bedroom and during the night they've combined maybe 6 or 7 liters of transpired and it's got to go somewhere and it's going to go straight to that cold surface of the
Mm.
aluminium window and it's going to condensate and then you're going to end up with mold and all of these things. Now we're sort of scratching our heads going, why is this happening? And the amount of people who still wake up and go, why have I got condensation all over my windows on the inside too, mind you? And they're getting sick because the indoor air quality is now reduced. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you can put a good quality window in there, especially timber, because that surface temperature is going to be way more consistent to that of the wall, and
Correct.
it'll really improve things dramatically. So, I think that's the backstory. If I was going to put it in a quick 5-minute rundown.
Mm.
Oh, I had experience with myself living when we moved back, we rent a place for like a few months until we bought a house, and it was a brand new build
Mm.
and had double glazed aluminum windows. And it was crazy. I had to have a window open all the time
Yeah,
because I didn't want that condensation and obviously mold in my bathrooms. It was for a 4 months old apartment building.
that must have been eating away at you because you knew what could be done.
Oh, So, and in winter, you have to have the window open. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
smart ventilation strategy, is it? That the peak of winter, you want to conserve energy, that you'll have to open a window to combat these things. But that's a whole
Mm.
discussion for another day
Yeah.
as well on
Different
sustainable
discussion,
ventilation.
correct.
Yeah, it is.
The only other thing I might ask further to that is, I mean, we're talking about things that are very much aligned with Passive House, and that is a strong movement here in Australia for very good
Yeah.
reasons, because it does tick all these boxes. Is this something that you're also catering for? Because your components, I suppose, are they Passive House certified components?
Yeah, so the company with a partnership from manufacturing perspective, we produced a first passive house certified window back in Europe in 2000
The
and
first ever?
the first ever.
Wow.
We got actually certification back in Austria as a first passive house windows, but at the moment our windows are not passive house certified because the company that they work with export to all different
Mm.
markets, and every single market needs a different passive house certification from a climate zone.
Aha. Okay.
But we produce the windows of U values of, yeah, we can achieve any U values based, not any, sorry, up to zero, usually zero point 0.8, but for specific projects we can do it like 0.69 and things like that. So we can manufacture to passive house certification levels, if that makes sense.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier, Monica, that you were a passionate advocate for, all things sustainable in the environment. So why is it that you chose fenestration as your weapon for change? What was it that?
Yeah, so I probably the first thing I like, my husband and I, we looked at our own carbon emission footprint basically, and we only have one car, and when we moved back to Australia, we basically, our biggest carbon emission was our energy consumption at home,
Mm.
and then we compared that here or living in Europe. We lived in Luxembourg for a few years before we moved back. It was all come down to windows, actually, to high quality windows, because the numbers were shocking. We're like, why our energy consumption is so high here? Like, we couldn't understand it. So we measure every single thing, why, and yeah, it all came back to high quality windows.
Mm.
Another thing is, like Anthony said, it's a movement towards a passive house building. So people are hungry for high quality windows, high performing windows, and sustainable windows, like from raw materials. So I just wanted to fill that gap,
Mm.
and yeah, and just look basically what I can do on my personal level
Mm.
from to yeah, pushing towards sustainability.
Well, thank you.
Mm.
Because, yeah, I think there definitely is a demand for it here. And it's always great to have, more options, I suppose, for people out there to consider and also to learn from. I might dig a bit deeper on the sustainability side of things as well. You mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your materials are sustainably sourced as well. So the timber
Oh yeah.
themselves are, yeah. Would you be able to expand a bit more on that, Monica?
Yeah, so the company as well, but a partnership, we have a forest stewardship certificate. So for every single tree we cut for the windows, we plant another, and everything is just raw, sustainable, because it's healthy for us. It's to have that raw timber at home. It's with like timber briefs, and it's just healthy for people inside the house, if that makes sense, and it's healthy for the planet.
Yeah.
Hi. Thanks for taking the time to come and have a look at the Hybrid Home course. It's been produced by Outlier Studio and we've been working on it for the last 18 months. Look, we cover all the topics that you're going to need to be able to upskill and learn a little bit more about how you can have a higher performing home. We look at energy efficient housing design in general, orientation, air tightness, insulation, ventilation, thermal bridging, glazing, and we do touch on cost a little bit too. Although, disclaimer, it's only at the current time of recording that we've been able to put those forward. You'll find everything from as-built verifications, in which we have our own services and advice, helpful handouts that touch on all of the topics that we discussed that you can see on the left-hand side here in the video. We consider things in detail, like how we go about recording our height for shading. We also do some demonstrations on how to achieve better results in an ATHERS assessment. You'll see what it looks like when we do our inspections and see the thermal bridging occurring. And you can also have a look at a previous presentation from Builders Declare that we did. We'll look at the importance of ventilated cavities and the right wraps and moisture control, as well as the ventilation systems. Thermal bridging is a big one that we touch on, and a step-by-step process of how to install a window. On top of that, you've got all these fantastic construction details you can use for projects yourselves and in your documentation. We look at all the best practices, high performance, and even airtight construction as well in these details. So please take the opportunity now to purchase the course. You will not regret.
So I'm going to just ask a few questions to get a better understanding of like what the product's capable of, and maybe some of the integrations into those as well, because I'm sure by now some certain people are like, I need some windows for my home or my building. Tell me more. So I know when it comes to timber species in Australia, where particularly in regional areas or regions that have bushfire management overlays, this is something that you're able to provide an outside skin of aluminium to then meet the certification or meet the requirements of a non-combustible.
So yes, correct, Anthony. We can do both. No, blah blah. Sorry. Yes, correct, Anthony. We can provide that with, as our windows come in two different types. As I have a timber window inside and outside, and another option is timber window cladded with aluminium from the outside, which is obviously bushfire safe, and we can put any glazing to work with a bushfire rating, if it's BAL 12, BAL 19, or BAL even 29. Actually, even BAL, we can achieve up to BAL 40.
Wow.
With 6 mil tough and glass, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, there's not too many timber windows that I'm aware of that can meet a BAL 40. So that's, really helpful. I mean, let's talk fly screens. Insects and bugs are a big thing in Australia. So that's another thing that you've been able to tackle.
Yeah, so, and I actually really love our fly screens. It's just from aesthetic point of view, like just a nice feature, as we have retractable fly screen, which is
How
How does that work?
Yeah, explain that. How does that work?
yeah. So the first thing from aesthetic point of view, the frame comes same color like as your like as your window color from the outside, so you can't even see that the fly screen is attached. And then you need a fly screen in summer. It just retracts down basically, and then you don't need it. It goes up.
Hidden away.
It's all integrated into the door.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah, it's really cool.
and external. Okay, so two more things, because we're going to dive into National Construction Code changes now. So they're getting close, although just in the last 24 hours, we have seen a little bit of an announcement saying that there's going to be another 12-month grace period for this. But I'm sure for most people who are listening, they're pretty much like, hey, we're ready to go now. So I think we've touched on the energy efficiency side of things fairly in depth. So big tick. The second one is livability. So we need to be able to provide zero threshold entries. And I may have misremembered this, but do you have like integrated strip drain systems and things as such that can go on the outside of the doors for water management that allow
Correct.
for pretty much zero threshold entries?
Yeah, exactly. So we have doors with 0 or 5 mil thresholds, and all the sliding systems comes with an integrated water
Drain?
integrated drain. Correct. Yeah. So it's super cool.
Amazing. Yeah. And the other one, I mean, I guess I'm kind of asking now because I'm fanning on this a little bit because I'm really impressed with the product and I can see all the integrations and I'm like, this is amazing. So apologies for those who are listening who are going, come on, get to the point. But external shading as well is massive when we have airtight buildings, particularly in passive house. So again, one of the biggest issues that we have with this is that when aesthetically integrating in external shutters or blinds for protection against the sun entering into the home and causing overheating. That's another thing I think I noted that you can also do is have external shading, particularly vertical blinds are what I'm most interested in, and they can be a fabric as opposed to a solid as well. Is this another thing that can be done?
Yes, correct, Anthony. Yeah, we work with most of our projects are architectural projects, and obviously aesthetics is quite a big thing. And yeah, we can provide external blinds, external awnings that is only supplementing the windows, if that makes sense. I don't want to be a blind business or something like this. It's just for people, okay, I have a project and I really need a different blind or something. Yes, let's work together and we have a big range of blinds.
Amazing.
Or external shading basically.
I think you're product already meets all of the requirements of all the new National Construction Code requirements, I guess, that are coming into effect very soon. So that's also something that's challenging for certain suppliers or manufacturers is, hey, our products used to tick the box, but now we've got to reassess this and look at how we're going to alter this to meet the new requirements or new regulations come October 23, or it could be later. We'll find out soon enough. Is there anything further that you think that you've, I suppose, looking to implement in your product range? Anything new and exciting that's on the horizon, or anything that might be to address the new National Construction Code?
Yeah, no, Anthony, I'm just happy as well that the National Construction Code is changing and is getting better, and hopefully it's going to get pushed more towards passive home style building.
Yeah.
And so from our point of view, the windows that we provide is nothing is gonna change. We are very proud what the product we can offer, but I think the thinking on education of the consumers will change, and and which is a huge thing, and probably it's gonna be it's probably more important for people with a middle range double glazed windows. But hopefully some people will say, let's get high performance double glazed windows, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, in my experience doing energy ratings and PHPP, it is the one thing that you can absolutely incorporate into a design that will just drastically improve the energy rating or the results for certification for PHPP as well. So yeah, I can agree with that for certain. I think gone are the days of those single glazed aluminium windows in our cooler climate zones, at least anyway.
Yeah, and you will never regret by choosing the highest quality product you can get. Like, you're just not gonna regret.
And that actually leads into the next question I wanted to ask. And I mean, I know there may be a little bit of bias flying around, obviously, but when should clients consider, sort of prioritizing quality fenestration in a project? Because quite often what we see is that sometimes client can be really sort of fixed on some nicer finishes or different components of a building, and fenestration can be pushed back down on that sort of priority list in terms of spending the money. Is that when should they sort of take a step back and say, look, really, if we want this building to be performing at its highest level and still look beautiful, in your opinion, should that be at the top of the priority list? Obviously it should, but
yes, Anthony is laughing. Yes, I think it should be, but it's a lot of, like, if you take a step back, and I think it's a lot of like cost of living pressures at the moment, and people just think about the costs, obviously, but I think that basically you shouldn't save on money on the good quality fenestration, never ever. As the good quality fenestration makes a good quality building, and actually at the end it's gonna save you money on energy bills. Like, it will be better for you if you invest now. And most people actually are extremely surprised if we're looking at a middle range, like double glazed windows. It's actually not such a big jump to get a high performance double glazed windows from a cost perspective. So yeah, most people are really surprised and really happy that we explored another option.
This is a discussion that, gosh, it's evolving so quickly that when's the payback period for these things? The cost to value ratio, so to speak. And I mean, they're indicating energy pricing is doubling again within a very short period of time. So that cost to value ratio, it's shortening very quickly. And unfortunately, I guess our mindset is a little bit juvenile in Australia, maybe comparatively to others around the world. And we kind of making those decisions now, like just based on a cost perspective, rather than thinking about, hey, we're going to be living in this house in 10 years' time. What the hell are energy price is going to be like then? We're not. I don't think I've ever sat down and the first thing I've spoken about is forecasting for what the cost of operating and cooling and heating a home is going to be. It's more about, hey, what that cost you? Oh, I can do that myself. It's that seems to be more the approach that we have, and that's, as you say, I think that's going to be something that's going to change quite quickly in our country, in the climate that we're in at the moment, given those pressures, external pressures that we're feeling. Yeah, I mean, this is a thing that we talk about quite often: windows and glazing and fenestration in the office, and we do have that thought or mentality that, hey, spend more money on the windows and glazing package, and maybe look at reducing some of the finished materials in areas that you won't see. Does the guest bathroom really need to have the high-end stone finishes, or you could just maybe put something that's a little bit more affordable in there and spend that remaining money on your window package, which is going to benefit you from now until, well into the future.
I think there's something to be said also about having those tangible examples, because there's not an awful lot. I mean, personally, I don't know that many people that have a high functioning home with, a high level fenestration. And if I did, each time I go there and experience that quality in internal environment, I'd probably think, yeah, I'd definitely put that high on my priority list. But unfortunately, the standard here is probably not quite there yet, generally speaking.
Monika, you're ticking both the boxes: aesthetically pleasing and performing. So
I'm very passionate. Yeah, thank you.
So are we thinking of asking the last? Are we okay to ask the last question?
We have to ask the last question. We don't mind if you really speak your mind on this last question. It's one that we ask every single guest. And I guess we've kind of split it in two to make sure that you've got a bit more flexibility in which way you want to approach the answer. Do you want to take this one, Evangelia?
So are we asking as we've got it, or did you have something else in mind,
No,
Anthony?
that's it.
Okay, so Monika,
Yes.
if you had one wish to change something in the NCC or in the industry, what would it be?
Thank you for this great question. I think it would be a couple of things. And I think the most important thing for everyone who's thinking of building a home in the future would be we would have a push towards a passive home, at least design or principles build. So that will be a better building for everyone, right? And for us and the environment. And obviously, I believe about possibly documentation of installation process of a good quality
I'm so glad you touched on
installation.
that. We cannot forget the importance of this.
The installation and a good quality slab, about the installation basically of the process. So yeah, passive home and eco-friendly homes, which obviously have all double glaze windows and high performance double glaze windows, because it's very big difference between double glaze, mid-range double glaze windows and high performance double glaze windows.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a very logical response to hear that from yourself. So I totally agree. It would be amazing to have a set requirement in our National Construction Code, I think, that I guess forces that a little bit more to occur as well. So maybe some minimum performance values for glazing, that would be helpful. But yeah, it's I suppose I'd love for people to be able to get in contact with you too, Monika. How do people go about finding you? What's the best method to do so? How can they find more information on the product as well?
So we actually have a quite newish website launched a month ago. So it's the best way just to jump on our website is ecosky.com.au, and you'll find most of the information, and it's a contact button. Yet you can send an email to us, and we super friendly team, and yes, we'll get back to you very, very soon.
Oh, that's great. And is there any operational samples that I suppose people can get access to? Have you got anyone in Adelaide or thereabouts? I know that I'm going to put my hand up and request some of that moving forward. So anyone who's interested to have a look, they can drop by our office and have a look. So
so our home is actually our kind of display home for our windows. So people can come, contact us by appointment only, and we have people coming through. And in the future, we're gonna have some samples as well, like to you, Anthony, and a few other people who would like some. And that's no problem at all.
Well, yeah,
That's wonderful.
Thank you, Monika. I mean, immediately upon when we first met and chatted, it was quite evident how passionate you were about doing better. And I can see massive things for yourself moving forward. I mean, the product is exceptional. The performance is, through the roof. And you yourself speak volumes for where this is going to move for you. And I encourage anyone who's looking at timber or timber alley clad options for their window or glazing packages to definitely reach out to you. There's no limitations on where they can be delivered or anything as such, is there?
No, we provide Australia wide. Yeah, no problems. We are speaking with the guys in Tasmania as well, so it's everywhere.
Cool.
There's a shipping port, we can deliver.
Yes. Well, we've got no problems being an island in Australia, so
No.
it's
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Monika, for your time and taking time out of your busy schedule. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
It was lovely
Thank
to
you,
meet you.
guys. Thank you for having us.
it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Monika.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Outlier podcast. You can find helpful links and contact information regarding this episode in our show notes and on our website, outlierstudio.com.au/podcast. If you like our show, please leave a review and make sure you subscribe to never miss a new episode. If you have further questions for us or want to share some additional feedback, please feel free to DM us on Instagram or Facebook. Until next time on the Outlier podcast.